Have you ever walked into a business and felt like you were bothering the employees by you being there? If so, hit the like button. I felt that. I know this is a thing, right? And that, along with walking into any business and looking around and seeing things that are a little bit out of step with the brand, yep, that is an issue. And it absolutely detracts from the customer experience and it waters down the brand. This could be happening to you. So we are going to address today how everything in your business speaks about your brand. Well, welcome everybody to the Dive Locker podcast, the podcast for dive professionals, where we discuss the latest in diving industry resources that make you excellent at teaching techniques, risk management, and dive business. I'm your host, Tech Clark, and welcome to another episode. So today, to talk about customer excellence and customer service and the experience of customer service, we've brought in one of the best in that field. That is Dennis Snow. Now, you're going to learn about Dennis, and he's going to tell you about his career and what he does, but I can tell you, I've seen him live. I have read his book, one of his books that is fantastic, watched YouTube videos. I follow Dennis, and that's why I wanted to make him a staple on this show, especially as it relates to dive business. You know why? Because sometimes we need to come outside of our industry for industry business experts, and we need to look at business and leadership experts outside of our industry that do this for a living, that have careers in related fields, that come alongside and can understand our plight, our dilemma, and Dennis is that guy. So you're going to love this episode as we really dig into the dive business area of what the customer experience is all about, and especially when we discuss how everything speaks. Everything is saying something about your brand. And that is what we're going to hit today. This is absolute gold. You're going to love it. So without any further ado, here's my interview with Dennis Snow. Hey, Dennis, it is great to have you on the Dive Locker. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much. I don't know if you can hear the thunder in the background. We're having one of our Florida storms right now, but I'm very happy to be inside with you.
Yeah, I mean, we're the same thing. It's every day down here, right? It's just
Yeah,
thunder and every day.
Yep.
I don't know what's going on, but yeah, it's happening.
It started as soon as you started recording. It started. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, hey, it's so exciting to have you here on the show. You know, I've seen you speak as a keynote speaker before, and immediately fell in love with your background, your experience, and what you have to say. Your message is just absolutely one of the best management messages I've heard.
Oh, thank you.
Reading your book, Lessons from the Mouse, and watching videos that you've done and everything like that. Your advice that you give to professionals is just fantastic, especially around that customer experience, and your background lends it and everything. And I'm just so happy to have you on because I believe that you're going to be able to give some amazing value to our dive professionals that are in our industry that have a desperate need for good business savvy.
Everybody does.
Every absolute veteran at management and leadership and customer service and all of that. So I am just so happy to have you on, Dennis. So welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
I'm honored to be participating in this.
Well, great. Well, Dennis, will you please tell everybody a little bit about your background? Because I think that lends itself to, letting people know why I've chosen you to kind of be the go-to guy for this series of where we speak on dive business essentials. Right. And in this podcast, in this YouTube channel, it's just vital. We talk about risk management. We talk about teaching techniques, but dive business.
Right.
If we don't get it right, then we don't have
Right,
jobs.
right.
And this is
Yeah.
a critical area. So please tell everybody about yourself.
Sure. Well, I come from outside the dive world. As you know, my background is actually with Walt Disney World. I started working there as a teenager. There was a ride called 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which should resonate with your group. I was under the sea in a submarine that really didn't go
Yes,
underwater.
I
And
remember
so,
it well.
yeah, so that's what I started at Disney World, and then got into management and managed various operating areas around the company. And there's a division called the Disney University, which we did the training for people coming into the organization, the management training and all of that. And then we spun off a division called the Disney Institute, where companies would benchmark with us. They would come down to Disney World to benchmark with us. And I ran a division of that for several years. And then I started my own company. I always wanted to have my own company. So I had hit 20 years with Disney and decided, I want to go out on my own and really speak about customer experience and through training and consulting and speaking and so forth. So I've been doing that now for 24 years. So
Fantastic.
that's a snapshot anyway of my background.
Oh, that is wonderful. Well, I mean, I think that that's the whole piece of this is that our industry is a recreation-based industry.
Right.
Disney, obviously, a recreation-based industry. It's hitting people where recreation is that vital need that individuals have. And I think that that is so important. And the parallels between your business space and your background and what we are doing in the diving industry are actually remarkable. And all of the examples that you have used speaking and in your books just have resonated with me. I've shared those before with many others. So I just love that background ties so nicely. And for everybody listening right now and watching, you're going to see exactly why this matters, especially in the area of customer excellence and customer service. So when we're talking about here, Dennis, is that we've got an industry that is comprised of diving professionals. These diving professionals are individuals that might have a resort operation, which could be a dive center and a dive charter operation with it. Maybe there's a hotel attached. Maybe there's not a hotel attached. Maybe it's just a dive boat itself. And that's all that they have is a dive charter operation. Maybe it is just a dive center or a dive shop. It might have a pool. It might not have a pool. It could just be a retail location. But in all of these instances, we have many, many parallels. And that is that there are the products and services that go along with diving.
Right.
And we even have independent instructors. And the independent instructor also has services and maybe even products that go along. They might be affiliated with a dive center, but they might not be. They too have a business model where they're trying to get people to dive with them or take lessons with them. So all of these areas are what our different business models are in this industry. And they all need a great customer experience. So can you kind of give us some of the pointers here as we look at what would be a great way to kick off this in a wonderful perspective for our individuals, our dive professionals to embrace some things about customer experience?
Well, when you first reached out to me about this, I got pretty excited because I am an amateur diver. I don't go as much as I would like to, but my wife and I and my youngest son actually too.
Awesome.
So I was very excited about this. And we also talked about maybe turning this into a series. So what I thought was, for each of these segments to hone in on maybe one key point. So it's not overwhelming, that people can take that point away and apply it in their business. And does that resonate with you? And
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, thank you for bringing that up, is that, we've already discussed many of the opportunities that we could bring together for dive business that have a longevity to it. So yeah, I look forward to this being the first of many times together.
Yeah, we've got 10 years worth of programming ready to go. So no, we don't. So one of the concepts, but I'm going to share my screen in just a moment because I put together a few slides that will support this particular message. But one of the core principles from Disney that I think applies in every element of the dive industry, all those things you just ran through, as a matter of fact, is something that I call everything speaks. Everything speaks. That every detail of the experience is either enhancing your brand or it's detracting from your brand. And everybody who's watching this, there's a brand, whether it's a shop, whether it's a boat, whether it's an independent instructor, you have a brand. It's the space you occupy in a potential or a customer's mind, so are the details either enhancing your brand or detracting from your brand? That's the key question. So let me share my screen here and just give you some of my thoughts on this. So you should be seeing Cinderella's castle right now. Are you seeing that, Tech? Okay. So there's a brand image that Disney World has, of the magic and the happiness and all of the things that Disney is trying to own in the guest's mind. So there's a brand associated with that. So the idea is every detail should support that brand, from the cast members. They call their employees their cast members. So the appearance and demeanor of the cast members. You see this photo. The cast members wear costumes. There's a particular costume that they wear that reflects the area of the park that they're working in. You can see his name tag on. You're not considered show ready unless you have that name tag on. You cannot go out on stage unless you have the name tag on. There's appearance guidelines and so forth. That all go back to connecting with that brand. The smile that you see on his face, so that he's camera ready when somebody takes a photo. Things that you don't even think about, the guests don't even think about, the trash cans. You don't think about trash cans, but what do you think the number one compliment Disney World gets is? How clean it is. That's the number one. Now, part of it is because everybody who works there is responsible for picking up trash off the ground. But there's also trash cans everywhere. Now, you don't think about that. That's not something that you typically, trash can. Let me look at all the trash cans. But now that I've got you thinking about trash cans, let me show you this picture of Main Street, USA. Look at all the trash cans. But you don't see one until you need one, because they're designed to fit the environment that they're in. They're designed to blend in. And so suddenly you have a piece of trash in your hand. Now, do I throw it on the ground? Oh, no, there's a trash can right there.
Right.
And then, so you don't see one until you need one. So, the people part of it, the environment part of it, everything is designed to reflect the brand. There's the castle isn't at the end of Main Street by mistake. It's there to draw you in, to draw you into. Now, all of the lands with the attractions all branch off of that castle. Now, you're not thinking about that, but that's what it's designed to do, to draw you down Main Street, and then you go off from there. So they've thought all this through. As I mentioned, I worked at 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which is, unfortunately, it's not there anymore. I was Captain Nemo. And, it's a submarine that didn't really go underwater, but it was a fantastic job. It was, but going back to a comment I made earlier, and I think this applies in the dive world, is being show ready. So an hour and a half before the park opens, there are cast members at every attraction, every food location, every merchandise shop who are walking that location to make sure that it's show ready. And I mean, I even found a photo of the walkthrough for 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Look at that.
Look at the detail. The single the third one down on the left, the single lobster, body forceway, claw in and out. I mean, look how detailed that is. So every morning, somebody would ride on the attraction at least 2 or 3 times, looking at all of this animation. Is it working? And we had certain percentages that if this percentage of animation was not operating, we couldn't open. We would have to get maintenance in to take care of it.
Right.
So this type of thing ensured that when the park opened to the guest, that we were show ready. And this just happened to be the one for 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. But if everything speaks and there's all these things that are supposed to be moving that aren't, you're thinking, okay, what's wrong? Like, this is a photo that I took at a hospital not too long ago. They put a lot of effort into the landscaping, right? It's colorful, it's vibrant, but I know what everybody is looking at right now. They're looking at the Pepsi can, right?
That's right.
At Disney, we had a term for everything. We would call that a visual intrusion, which it is. It's intruding on the experience. And that's why, as I said, at Disney, one of the responsibilities that everybody, whether they're Captain Nemo or the vice president of marketing, is if you see a piece of trash on the ground, you go over and pick it up and you throw it away. It's non-negotiable. It's trained into you from the time you join the organization. I take pictures everywhere I go because there are just always these wonderful opportunities.
Right. And
the co-author on one of my books, we were getting on this small commuter airplane in Abilene, Texas, really small plane. And as we got on the plane, I said, Terry, look at this. And I got a picture of it and I got a close up. There was duct tape on the wing. Right. Now it does say something about my intelligence. I still got on the plane, but that's a whole different issue.
Exactly.
But think about what that says. I'm now questioning the quality of everything else. And, so I would ask the viewers of this to think about, in our world, what's the duct tape? I took this photo outside of a bank. This trash can that was outside the door of a bank. And first of all, I thought, how did that happen?
Exactly.
That was
I want the story.
Yeah. Obviously, the person didn't get the loan. But, how did that happen? But again, it just whittles away at the brand, right?
Yeah.
Now, this is outside before the person even sets foot inside the bank.
Yeah.
And you already started whittling away at the brand.
Yeah.
This next one is just one of my favorites from an everything speaks standpoint. This was just near my house not too long ago. Class A office. How Class A can that office space be with that sign? This handwritten magic marker sign. So even the signage that I saw so many times. I see signs taped up in retail locations, that were obviously an afterthought. So everything speaks, right?
Yep.
So what does that actually say about this Class A office space?
That's right.
Another thing that goes along with this tech is, and you and I have talked about this concept of on stage and backstage. That when backstage comes on stage, again, you whittle away at the brand. And this is a photo I took at a retail store that I was working with. And it was a nice store. It really was a nice store. But you can see the broom. It's actually the stockroom door was propped open. So here they created this really nice environment. Somebody propped that door open. Backstage came on stage, and it just, again, whittled away at the brand. And I actually mentioned this to the store manager. And he got kind of indignant with me. He said, well, when our folks go into the stockroom, they prop the door open. When they come back, they close it. It's only open for a few seconds. But that probably happens 30 times a day.
Yep.
Right. In just that location. And this is another one that I took a while back at. I was going through a fast food restaurant in the drive-through, and I'm waiting in my car for my food. And I don't like to say company names, so then don't pay attention to the M on the stanchions there. So this is what I'm staring at, as I'm waiting for my food to come out. Backstage just came on stage, and again the brand was compromised.
And you lost your appetite.
And you lost, yeah, exactly. And it wasn't done. I'm sure it wasn't done intentionally, but sometimes we just aren't thinking about these things. And there's also what I call attitudinal backstage. Attitudinal backstage, where we've all interacted, we've called the company on the phone or whatever, and we could tell that we were interrupting whatever they were doing. And, the example I always like to use is, imagine coming to Disney World and you're in the park and your child sees Cinderella and she goes up, tugs on her dress, and Cinderella turns around, has a cigarette in one hand, a cup of coffee in the other hand, says, "Kid, I'm on break." The impact that would have on the child, there are probably years of therapy involved, but everything collapses. And so there's certain behaviors, complaining about things. Everybody complains about things, but we do that backstage. We don't do that on stage. Have you, I'm sure you've walked into a store and there's a couple of employees chatting with each other, and they don't connect with you. They don't acknowledge that you're even there. That's attitudinal backstage coming on stage. So, when I think about one of the core concepts of creating a great customer experience, it's this idea of everything speaks. That every detail is either enhancing the experience or it's detracting from the experience. And so, when I think about dive professionals, I think about safety and quality. As an outsider, person outside the industry, I think about safety. So really, in whatever context we're talking about, is it screaming safety and quality? My wife and I went diving one time when we first started diving. This is when we first started diving. And we were down, and she was a little nervous to begin with. I was the one who really wanted to do it, and so she went along with me. And her BCD failed when we were getting ready to come back. Now, knowing what we know now, okay, we can go back up, whatever. Well, we were new to it, so she panicked. She just panicked. And now this is a rental. We were renting the equipment, and it was a terrifying moment for her. And so, the quality of if you're involved in rentals, the quality of the equipment, all those kinds of things, they either say something positive or they say something negative.
Absolutely.
Does that resonate? Does that?
Oh my gosh, it does so much, and I think that what's really important in this is that every example you gave is a flood of examples within the industry. And when, you look at that, we've got everything from the presence of retail, an actual space, to the appearance of an individual, to the web presence. What are people seeing at the beginning? Absolutely. And I love that you brought up the part about you from the outside and the outside perspective. You see, as dive professionals, many of us have been diving for decades. Then we became professionals. And so because of the experience we have under our belts, we really don't focus on that beginner. Or the customer that you're trying to bring into to your world. Exactly. And so what we're doing is we're focusing on everything going on our day-to-day operations, and not through the lens of the customer. And I love that you frame this in we're kind of thinking safety might be a big thing here. Well, there's the mark of professionalism that sometimes gets amiss. Sure, we have this wonderful scuba lifestyle and we all love what we do. And that scuba lifestyle often has us be a little bit more comfortable,
Right.
relax.
Right.
Maybe there's not shoes worn at the dive shop.
Uh,
Maybe you've got a dog as your mascot or something like this, that people are like, hey, it's the vibe, it's what we do.
yeah.
However, we have to draw the line. I remember once going into a dive center that I was evaluating and meeting the owner with. Excuse me. And when I went there, they had a dog in the corner, nice, friendly dog. Unfortunately, the dog smelled like absolute wet dog. The shop smelled like wet dog. And it was a long-haired white fur, and the white fur was all over the carpet of the dive shop. It was
Right.
everywhere.
Yeah.
At the same place, went up to the counter and looked, and you could see pizza boxes
Yeah.
were on the counter next to the cash register.
That's a great example of backstage coming on stage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's where we have to draw this line of, are we too comfortable in our profession? Are we too laid back and chill that all of a sudden a customer that doesn't have those same expectations right off the bat, in fact, they're more interested in safety and how are you going to teach my kid to dive safely without dying?
Right.
And that's what they're in there for. And you don't know that. And so this is, I think, a huge piece. And another one, I went in a dive center once and went to the counter, talked with the people. Everything was great. I looked at the trash can right next to the checkout counter, completely filled with beer bottles. So the night before, they had had a party. And they had it in their retail space. Well, I'm all right.
There's a
with
disconnect there.
Parties,
there's a disconnect.
What happens when that one customer that is, again, thinking safety mindset is like, well, when did this happen? And how much of a lush are these people? And it all of a sudden does exactly what you're saying. It starts to whittle away at the brand. And that is a key component.
I know some of your viewers, they do instruction, right? And so you think about what is going through a new person's mind during that instruction phase. Is it building my confidence? It's kind of like the duct tape picture, of getting on the plane. Is everything about the instruction building my confidence or reducing my confidence? And so thinking through all those details. Another one that I thought of as you were talking, I'm an amateur photographer. And when I started getting into photography, I went to this photo store in Orlando, and the person behind the desk obviously could tell I was not an experienced photographer and treated me like I was an interruption, to what he really wanted to be doing. He didn't want to deal with an inexperienced photographer like me. He has a lot of professional photographers. And it was I felt embarrassed, diminished. So I left. And I went to another photography store and I said, let me tell you what just happened and why I'm hoping this is going to be a better experience. And I told him exactly what just happened and was treated royally during this, and didn't use the jargon and all of that. Well, what's your all of the jargon that they use, and I felt comfortable. I spent a lot of money. I spent a lot of money. My wife still doesn't know how much I spent on it, but it's just everything speaks. And sometimes too, that I think your viewers should keep in mind, sometimes your customers hold you accountable for things that may not be totally in your control. Like if you're doing a dive trip and you're renting a dive boat, that's not your dive boat. But as far as the people on the trip are concerned, you're responsible for that. You're responsible. So the people that you partner with, are they upholding the the brand image that you're trying to create, and just, thinking about things like that.
Absolutely. It's such a great point. And, I think that when we look at our industry as a whole, there is that piece that is where we interface with other
Yeah.
players, other vendors, whatever. And it could be a scuba line of equipment. It could be a brand. It could be a dive charter. It could be an airline, all of these things.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's a super important piece that comes out that, you keep those frustrations at bay, you
Yeah.
vet the
Yeah.
places and the folks that you want to do business with so that you don't run into some of these things that
Yeah.
can hurt you,
Because they're
because
going to look to
the
you.
worst thing is, the worst thing is to have that customer experience that goes awry, and then it's word of mouth. And now that person's putting on their socials, my trip to Belize was great, except for the fill in the blank.
Right.
And now all of a sudden that takes the wind out of the sails for others that are looking at doing the same type of a trip with this
Absolutely
company.
right.
How did they allow that to happen? I think that's a great point.
Yeah. And, so thinking about what people are holding you accountable for, and are those details reinforcing? And so, I jotted down a few recommendations that if I were in the shoes of your viewers, that here are some things that you can do right away, with your, to start putting this into practice. If it's a dive shop, if you operate a dive shop, conduct an everything speaks walkthrough with the team. Go out into the parking lot, go through the building, look at all of the details. What are these details saying? What is this clutter in the aisle saying? What are these beer bottles in the trash can saying to our customers? What's on stage? What's backstage? In a dive shop, what does show ready mean? To engage the team, the entire team, and get them thinking this way. You could have an interactive discussion about a dive trip with your team. What are the key elements that we need to make sure are just right, to make sure that we're reflecting the brand the way it should be. When we're doing instruction, okay, what can build confidence and what can take away from confidence? And let's capture some of those on the flip chart. Just getting your people thinking that way goes a long way. And then you take that and you weave it into ongoing training, new hire onboarding, and all of those things.
Yeah.
But it starts with that eye for detail, getting your people, to have that eye for detail.
Yeah, I think that is perfect. And when we are looking at this, I love encouraging individuals to do it themselves, like actually do a checkout process.
Yeah.
What would it be like to be the customer that purchases this? Go into your changing room.
Right.
What's the experience like in that changing room? Because
that's a great point.
And it's different from a male and a female. So take that female employee and put her in the changing room. And guess what? If your cute little curtain doesn't close all the way, does that make somebody feel uncomfortable? And it's these little things like that that really start to make a difference when we're doing all of this assessment. And you will find this out because we're big on emergency action plans, right? And we talk about doing that, and you do the scenario and you work it through. And when you work it through, you find things that you can correct. Well, we do that for emergency action plans. Why aren't we doing that for the retail experience or the customer experience? Right. And the same thing, I loved your chart there of what you did for the 20,000. That is vintage excellence. I love that. And
the worst one was doing that for It's a Small World, because you would have to go through it over and over listening to that song.
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine that. But I did notice that said port. So there must have been a starboard side too.
Yeah,
right?
Because you go through at least twice.
Yeah, but think about this. So when we say check a first aid kit before you go diving, so an individual opens up the first aid kit, and what is there? There's about 100 items in a first aid kit. Well, but How many bandages are supposed to be in there? How
Right.
many gauze pads? How many rollers? How many this? Well, if you don't know, then you've just handed it to somebody that just does this look and goes, I don't know.
Right.
That's
Right.
why you've got to come up with almost an inventory list for that first aid kit.
Yeah.
The same exact thing applies for what you're talking about that retail experience. And it
Right.
could be the website, it could be the dive class, anything that says, are we show ready to go today? Are we ready for this pool session? Do
Hmm.
we have everything in place? Are the
Right.
lifeguards here? Is the lightning alarm working? Do we have AED and oxygen?
Yeah.
And where are we going to get in the water? Where are we going to get out of the water? What does that exit point look like?
Oh,
We just
yeah.
had
Yeah.
one that was really wild, where an exit point had a wasp's nest right
Oh,
under a diving
yeah.
platform, and that was obviously an issue. And
Right.
so, we were able to keep people away from that. But it's a great point to consider. Are we show ready to go for the
Yeah.
retail environment, for the service environment? And a checklist like what you had at 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea
Yeah.
might be the right way to do that, to hand an employee and say, walk around the shop,
Yeah.
check the floor. Is there white dog hair on the floor? If so, vacuum, please.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It should be self explanatory, but it's not. And this is why we are seeing a decline that happens
Yeah.
within our business over time, or the businesses that kind of go, boy, we're offering all this stuff, but we're just not getting the customer base.
Well,
It
the
could be
reason it,
little details that have been eroding the brand all
yeah.
along.
Well, and the reason a checklist works well is we stop noticing things. We stop because we know the place so well. We go there every day. We don't see that open stockroom door anymore. We just don't see it anymore. We don't see the burned out light anymore.
Right.
Because we're not looking. The checklist helps remove that variability from it. You go on a plane, and they've got a checklist for every the pilots, they have a checklist for every single element. No
Yep.
matter how many times they've flown, they go through that checklist to make sure everything is right. Well, there's a reason they do that, to make sure everything is right.
Yes.
Another thing that I would just encourage your folks, especially those in the leadership roles, use that terminology of everything speaks.
Mm.
So when you're coaching a person, remember everything speaks. So what's this saying about our operation here? Are we show ready? We're getting ready to open. Are we show ready? And getting people, again, using the language gets people thinking about these things.
Yes. Oh, I absolutely love it. This has been just fantastic. I mean, this is gold. The wisdom here, and I think that that's just it, is that some people are kind of, like, well, we do this and we do that. It's almost that indignation that you said that one manager had, like, well, it's no big deal.
Right.
But
Right.
seriously, when we talk about everything speaks, but when you phrase it with, what is this saying about our brand? And we bring other people into it, I think that that's a healthy piece too.
Mm-hmm.
Bringing somebody in,
Yeah.
maybe it's a friend, maybe it is a spouse, to say, hey, will you come and help? Because
that's a great idea.
If we're just so attuned to, well, that's how we do it, and that's how we've always done it, and that's how the manager's done it, and that's how he likes it, it'd be great to have a perspective. And that's why I loved how you said, hey, look, when I was getting into diving, safety was a big thing for me.
Yeah.
And so how does the brand speak to safety? And I know the instructor you went with yours with, great guy, high level, excellent training, and he had a reputation for that. And that's, I think, a really great testament that was important to you. And you sought that. And that is, you had many choices because you live in Florida. We've got tons of choices around here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But you were able to do that and negotiate that. So I think this is just all gold here, Dennis. It's just really wonderful.
I hope that people have found it to be valuable. And again, a brand is a very fragile, I'll leave it with this. A brand is a very fragile thing. It doesn't take a lot to really screw up a brand. So putting the focus on everything speaks is time well spent.
Perfect. Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better. Dennis, will you please tell people how they can connect with you, follow you, and just learn more from you?
Sure. Well, my website, we use as a hub for everything, articles and videos and so forth, is www.snowassociates.com. So snowassociates.com. I also have a couple of books. One is called Lessons from the Mouse, which is obviously from my Disney background. Yep. And that's available through the website or through Amazon. And another book called Unleashing Excellence, which is about building a culture of service excellence. And again, either from my website or Amazon. But we use the website as the hub for everything, just to make it easy. For people. Yeah. We have an online course that people can, I know you have online courses. I have online courses on my website that people can sign up for.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. And I cannot speak highly enough about Lessons from the Mouse. This was my first book with you after I saw you speak. Yeah. And we have actually utilized this in our recreation and wellness department. And we've used the principles from this at the university because my supervisor and I were in that keynote that you did, and he is just locked and loaded. It is now part of our onboarding. We do many of the tenets that are in here, and these a couple of these items that we just talked about are some of the lessons that are in here, but there are way more lessons that go with this. So yeah, I can't support this enough.
Well, thank you.
Links for all of the ways to contact you, as well as the book, in the show notes here and everything. So, hey, it's been a pleasure, Dennis.
Great to see you again.
This time, absolute gold. So, thank you so much. And yes, we look forward to doing more of these in the future with you and getting some more of this customer excellence and leadership because it's just fantastic and our industry needs it.
I've enjoyed this very much, and I'm looking forward to the next one we do.
Great. Thanks, Dennis. Take good care.
Thank you.
So there you have it. What a great interview with Dennis Snow. Thank you so much, Dennis. It was absolute gold. We really, really appreciate all that you have to offer. And remember, that Lessons from the Mouse, everybody, excellent book. It's one of the best customer experience and leadership books I've ever read. Seriously. I'll put the links to Dennis and the book in the show notes. Hey, everybody, if you found value in today's episode, please consider being a patron of the Dive Locker podcast by showing some love and going to www.patreon.com/thedivelocker. There you can sign up to be a patron, support my time and energy producing this show. Look, you watch this episode and others, you are definitely going to raise the bar in your status as a dive professional and do really well in this industry. So there you have it. Hey, remember to like, subscribe, be a part of this community. And that's it for today. We will see you in the next episode. So safe diving and take good care, my friends.